Today, we're talking about offshore banking. Now, I know a lot of people have a negative connotation when it comes to offshore banking or offshore companies, but that's just because there has been a lot of bad publicity around it. Offshore banking and offshore companies can be a great tax strategy for you once you've exhausted all of the relevant tax incentives and tax rebates and strategies within your specific jurisdiction. The global average tax rate is sitting at about 23.5% for corporate tax. And so for our company tax rate being 28% in most cases, you're probably looking to reduce or optimize your tax strategy as much as possible. And in such case, setting up an offshore company with an offshore bank account may be applicable, and not just applicable, but helpful and beneficial for you. Let's get into when you need an offshore company. So in my experience, there are about 3 instances when an offshore company becomes a particularly appealing option for you. Number 1 is when you are earning income from a different jurisdiction that you're in. When you're earning an income from outside of your particular residential jurisdiction, it might be beneficial to have a company close to or easy to transact with the country that you are earning an income from. Number 2 is if you're a high net worth individual, and number 3 is if you're a high net worth corporation. Like I mentioned, there are only so many tax incentives and rebates and write-offs that you can get within South Africa as a tax jurisdiction. There are many favorable jurisdictions that you can incorporate your offshore or international company and bank account that will still allow you to pay and transact with stakeholders within your residential country, such as South Africa, without having to deal with the tax obligations of South Africa. How is this done and how is it legal? Might be your next question. The reason that this is legal is because each and every country has their own tax laws. And we might have an average of 23.5% as a global corporate tax rate average. But for instance, in South Africa, we have a corporate tax rate of 28% for just a flat tax rate. And we have many different other tax rates that might apply. That is our own prerogative as South Africa. Most small islands and countries, some of these you might know as Mauritius, the British Virgin Islands, Curacao, St. Kitts and Nevis, Panama, very notorious for the Panama Papers. These are small islands usually that don't have booming industry, but what they do to make themselves attractive is to become a tax haven with either 0 tax rates for companies that incorporate within that specific island but do not carry out trade within that specific jurisdiction. And so this encourages foreign investment. So what you'll have is, for instance, a big multinational company will incorporate themselves in these favorable tax havens to reduce or completely annihilate their tax altogether. This is how it's legal. In certain countries, for instance, St. Kitts and Nevis, any kind of company that is incorporated in their country and does not carry out trade within their country is applicable for 0% tax rates. So you can imagine if you just decide to incorporate a company over there and you have your bank account, maybe it's not even set up in St. Kitts, maybe it's set up in Dubai because it's a more credible banking structure, or in Switzerland because that is a more secure banking structure, or even Singapore, you could then have your company which has 0 tax rates applicable for the jurisdiction it's incorporated in, and then have a banking in a more secure country and then reside in a different country. What we have to do is break this mentality that you have to live, bank, and have a company in the same country that you are in, that's not necessarily the case. You can live anywhere, bank anywhere, and have a company anywhere. In my opinion, you shouldn't have an offshore company or bank account, even if it's tax beneficial, if you're not ready to keep up with the compliance requirements. There's secretarial work, there's financial statements, there's all the types of compliance to comply with the specific country that you're going to be in order to stay up to date and to stay in their good books. So if you're not ready to take on that administrative responsibility, I'd say veer away from an offshore account. If you are a high net worth individual or a high net worth company and you earn income from foreign sources, I would highly recommend you have an offshore company. It's a great way to optimize your tax, and in some cases you'll pay absolutely nothing in tax. It's also a great way to protect your privacy. In some cases, for instance, in St. Kitts and Nevis, there is no public registry, meaning there is no equivalent to CIPC where people can get access to your ID number, can get access to your addresses, can get access to your tax number. In these jurisdictions, no one is able to publicly access your records, your company records, which in my opinion is a really great way of protecting your privacy. Now, a barrier to entry for incorporating a company and why most people don't do it is because it runs a bit on the expensive side. If you're going to incorporate an offshore account, for instance, you're going to be spending upward of about $3,000 to incorporate that company. And the annual returns and the maintenance to the specific countries. So if you're not able to keep up with that, then it might be something that you want to stay away from. However, if you're paying a high tax bill, the administrative costs are really quite negligible when it comes to how much you're actually saving and optimizing in terms of your taxation. We at Lorde Business Solutions are able to help incorporate your offshore company. So if you need help, please give us a shout and we can have a discovery call, figure out what your company does, figure out the best jurisdictions for you. I would say my top 3 jurisdictions are definitely going to be Dubai, Mauritius, and the British Virgin Islands. A lot of these small countries and jurisdictions do come with some sort of a residency incentive to get you to invest and incorporate companies there. And there are just many, many different moving parts. So depending on the industry that you're in, depending on your plans for the future, where you want to go, we can chat and see which jurisdiction would make the best sense for you and see if you are able to completely remove the tax liability or at least considerably reduce it. Give us a shout. Like I said, the prices for incorporating an offshore company can start from about $3,000 and we're able to assist you in terms of incorporating that.